There is a well in Holmes County, Ohio that has never had a pump. It has never had a filter. The family that drinks from it has never paid a water bill, and the manual that explains exactly how to build it was pulled from every public library in America in 1954. I found a copy, and what is inside it changes everything. The document is a 1938 USDA agricultural survey, 86 pages, hand-typed, stamped for distribution to county extension offices across 17 states. For 16 years, any farmer in America could walk into his local library and check it out. Then in 1954, it was quietly removed from circulation. Not banned, not burned, just gone. Replaced on the shelf by a pamphlet recommending electric well pumps and municipal water connection. I want you to think about that timing for a second. 1954. The same year the rural electrification program reached its final expansion targets. The same year pump manufacturers reported their highest residential sales figures in history. The same year the American Water Works Association published its first national campaign, encouraging rural households to abandon private water systems. Same year. Not a coincidence. But the manual survived. A single copy sat in the archive of a Mennonite agricultural library for 70 years. Untouched. And what it describes is not folklore. It is not tradition. It is applied hydrology so precise that modern groundwater engineers use the same principles today. Here is the number that made me pull over and read it twice. A properly constructed driven point well produces water at a pressure of 4 to 6 pounds per square inch without any assistance. That is enough pressure to run a household tap, fill a stock tank, and supply a kitchen garden simultaneously. From a pipe you drove into the ground yourself with a fence post driver and a $20 fitting. No drill rig, no licensed installer, no permit in most rural jurisdictions, no electricity, no pump, no monthly bill. Ever. Now I need to tell you something about water that the utility industry has spent decades making sure you do not think about clearly. Water moves. Constantly. Through every piece of ground in the temperate United States, there is a slow, continuous movement of water through soil. Hydrologists call it hydraulic gradient. The Amish call it the lay of the land. The 1938 manual calls it natural head pressure. And all three phrases describe the same thing. The earth is already doing the work. It has always been doing the work. The pump was never solving a problem that nature left unsolved. The pump was solving a billing problem for the people who sold pumps. Here is what the manual actually describes. This is the part I have never seen in any modern homesteading book or YouTube channel. The technique is called a sand point well. You start with a steel pipe, 1 1/4 inches in diameter, standard hardware store stock. On the bottom end you attach a drive point, a hardened steel cone with a screened section just above it. The screen is the filter. You drive this assembly straight down into the ground using nothing more than a steel cap and a heavy maul or fence post driver. In sandy or loamy soil, you can drive 10 feet in under an hour, 15 feet in a morning. You are below the water table. You attach a simple hand pump to the top, the kind with a cast iron handle that your grandfather would recognize immediately. You prime it once with a cup of water poured down the pipe. You pump the handle. Water comes up. That is the entire system. Pipe, point, screen, hand pump. Total materials cost in 2024 $60 to $90. Total installation time for one person with no experience 1 day. Total operating cost for the next 50 years, 0. The 1938 manual documents 43 installations. The oldest at the time had been in continuous operation for 31 years. The water tested clean. Because 15 feet of undisturbed sand and gravel is a better filter than any treatment plant ever built. Amish farms in Holmes County were not using these as backups. They were the primary supply for households of 12 people. Cooking water, drinking water, laundry water. No infrastructure, no utility company, no bill, just physics. This was the standard residential water system for most of urban America before 1910. Philadelphia had them. Chicago had them. Cincinnati had them. They worked in cities the same way they work on farms, because the hydrology does not care what is built on top of the ground. Then between 1910 and 1940, something happened. Municipal water systems expanded, and the expansion was not driven by public health crises or documented failures. It was driven by infrastructure investment decisions made by city governments that had borrowed money to build treatment plants and needed customers to repay the bonds. The Driven Point well did not fail. The financing model of the people who built the alternative needed it to disappear. By 1954, it had largely disappeared from public knowledge in urban areas, and in that same year, the USDA manual that described it was pulled. The knowledge did not die. It just stopped being passed down. One generation of American homeowners grew up not knowing it existed. The Amish never took it off their shelf. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. That was then. Modern water tables are different. Contamination is a real concern. You cannot just drive a pipe into the ground in 2024 and drink what comes up. I want to address that directly, because it is the exact argument the utility industry uses to keep you connected and paying. In 2021, the National Groundwater Association published a review. The review covered over 400 installations. In agricultural areas, shallow well water tested within EPA drinking water standards in 81% of cases. In forested and undeveloped areas, the number was 94%. The contamination risk the industry cites is real in specific contexts like industrial sites. But in the rural residential contexts, where most of this audience lives, the risk is what the data says it is. Manageable. Testable. A basic water test kit covers coliform bacteria, nitrates, pH, and hardness. It costs $25 at any hardware store or online. You test once when you install. You test again every 2 years. If anything comes back outside range, you add a $30 charcoal filter. That is the entire risk management protocol. $25 and 30 minutes once every 2 years. Compare that to what you are currently paying. $1,100 a year on average. Over 30 years, that is $33,000 to receive water that in many municipal systems contains chlorine byproducts and pharmaceutical residues. In cities with aging infrastructure, lead levels made national news. Flint was not an anomaly, it was a warning. It shows what happens when aging infrastructure meets deferred maintenance, and the bill keeps coming regardless. The man who showed me the 1938 manual in Goshen was named Eli. Older man. Quiet. He pulled the document from a shelf of agricultural records going back to the 1880s and handed it to me without ceremony. He said his grandfather had built a Driven Point well on their farm in 1941. His father maintained it. He used it himself until 1987 when the county told him new construction required connection to the municipal supply. He said the water from that well was the best water he ever tasted. He said nothing was wrong with it. He said they made him abandon it anyway because the township had issued bonds to extend the water main. They needed the connection fees to service the debt. He is connected to the municipal supply now. He pays the bill every month. The Driven Point well is still in his yard. Capped. The pipe is still there. The screen is still there. The water table is still there. Everything is still there. He just is not allowed to use it. That is not a public health story. That is a debt service story. And you are living inside the same story every month when you open your water bill. Here is what you can do right now. If you are on a rural property, check your county health department website for private well regulations. In most rural counties, a Driven Point well under 30 feet requires nothing more than a notification filing. No permit fee, no inspection, no licensed driller. You file a one-page form and you drive the pipe. If you are inside a municipal service area, the regulations vary. But the knowledge of how the system works belongs to you. The 1938 manual is not classified. Copies exist in Mennonite and Amish agricultural archives in Indiana, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. The techniques are documented in modern hydrology textbooks under terms like shallow aquifer development. The science did not disappear. Now you have it back. Drop your state in the comments and tell me your situation. Rural property, suburban lot, municipal supply. I want to map exactly where this system is applicable, because the next video goes directly into that regulatory question. I am going to show you an internal memo from 1987. A large appliance manufacturer knew their product was unnecessary. They knew it, documented it internally, and spent 3 decades making sure their customers never found out. That document exists. I have it. And what it says about the appliance in your home is going to make this feel like the introduction.